of Job, chapter 11. Then Zophar the Manaen answered and said, He that speaks much should also hear on the other side. Or does the fluent speaker think himself to be righteous? Blessed is the short-lived offspring of woman. Be not a speaker of many words, for is there none to answer thee? For say not, I am pure in my works, and blameless before him. But oh, that the Lord would speak to thee, and open his lips to thee. Then shall he declare to thee the power of wisdom. For it shall be double of that which is with thee. And then shalt thou know that a just recompense of thy sins has come to thee from the Lord. Wilt thou find out the traces of the Lord? Or hast thou come to the end of that which the Almighty has made? Heaven is high, and what wilt thou do? And there are deeper things than those in hell. What dost thou know? Or longer than the measure of the earth, or the breadth of the sea? And if he should overthrow all things, who will say to him, What hast thou done? For he knows the works of transgressors, and when he sees wickedness, he will not overlook it. But man vainly buoys himself up with words, and a mortal born of woman is like an ass in the desert. For if thou hast made thine heart pure, and liftest up thine hands towards him, if there is any iniquity in thy hands, put it far from thee, and let not unrighteousness lodge in thy habitation. For thus shall thy countenance shine again, as pure water, and thou shalt divest thyself of uncleanness, and shalt not fear. And thou shalt forget trouble as a wave that has passed by, and thou shalt not be scared. And thy prayer shall be as the morning star, and life shall arise to thee as from the noonday. And thou shalt be confident, because thou hast hope, and peace shall dawn to thee from out of anxiety and care. For thou shalt be at ease, and there shall be no one to fight against thee, and many shall charge and make supplication to thee. But safety shall fail them, and their hope is destruction, and the eyes of the ungodly shall waste away. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Job chapter 11, in which there are 20 verses. Beginning in verse 1, we have Manaen versus Namathite, and that needs to be explored in another video. Verse 2, he that speaks much should also hear on the other side. So to break it down simply, one that talks a lot should also listen to the person they're conversing with, the other side of the matter, versus should not the multitude of words be answered. So we have someone who speaks a lot, which is lining up with the Septuagint. However, the question is being asked, will not the multitude of words be answered for? Not so much listening to the other side. There's nothing about listening being mentioned, it's about being responded to. Or does the fluent speaker think himself to be righteous? Versus should a man full of talk be justified? So the Septuagint is echoing that this individual who's using a lot of words has the impression that he is righteous. That's the question. Does he think himself to be righteous? Is that his opinion of himself? Versus a man who talks, uses much words, will he be justified by his words? I think that's the implication here. And there's an omission of the following: blessed is the short-lived offspring of woman. This seems to allude to Job, uh, again, being perplexed about a situation and preferring rather that he didn't have to go through what he's going through. Verse 3, we have a big difference in this verse. It says, "Be not a speaker of many words." Continuing this thread of people who are verbally incontinent. "For there is none to answer thee." Don't speak too many words because there's no one to answer you. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement. It seems more like a statement to me. Versus, "Should your lies make men hold their peace?" So quite different. It's instead of just speaking words, he's speaking lies, and these lies are making people hold their peace. Or should they hold their peace at these lies? "And when you mock, shall no man make you ashamed?" So we can see a great tonal shift in the Masoretic, talking about shame, lying. Let's start from the lying part. Okay, so basically, Zophar is saying to Job, "You are lying." In the Masoretic, "You're lying, and should we be quiet at your lies?" Of course they're going to speak, and then when you're mocking, will no one make you ashamed? So he's clearly rebuking Job in the Masoretic. In the Septuagint, he's basically saying, you're speaking a lot. Is there no one to answer you? I think he's pointing at himself. It's more of a rhetorical question. Now that we reframe it this way, he's saying, well, I'm going to answer you, essentially, referring to himself. Verse 4, "For say not, I am pure in my works." Verses, "For thou hast said, my doctrine is pure." So we see the actions being the focus here. So he's telling Job, don't say that your actions are pure. Versus, Job, you're saying that your knowledge, your received knowledge, your doctrine is pure. So one is an admonition. He's discouraging Job to say that you are pure in your works. Do not say this, Job. Seems like a warning. Versus a statement of fact saying, you said this, Job, my doctrine is pure. And blameless before him. Versus, I am clean in your eyes. So the focus of the Septuagint is Job, according to Zophar anyway, that Job seems in his mind that he is blameless before Elohim. Versus, I am clean. He's saying, Job, this is what you are saying. You've said to us, I am clean in our eyes, in the eyes of his three friends. Verse 5, significant difference, an omission of speak to thee. So, oh, that Elohim would speak to who? To him, to Job. So that has been omitted in the Masoretic. Actually, I put that in brackets. It's actually, speak should be in brackets in my notes here, if you're following along. And then it says, open his lips to thee. So we have a friendly prayer in the Septuagint. Zophar is showing himself friendly. Oh, that Yahweh or Hashem would speak to thee and open his lips to thee. That seems like a friendly aspiration. Versus, oh, that Eloah would speak and open his lips against thee. This is more of a request of an enemy, a prayer of an enemy. Verse 6, power versus secrets. And there's an omission of wisdom, for it shall be double of that which is with thee. So with thee. So this is wisdom that is with Job. Referring to the wisdom that is with Job. Shalt thou know, then shalt thou know. Versus know therefore. So he's making a prediction in the Septuagint. Again, this is based on the translator's conjugation of the verb versus knowing therefore. So you should know this. Know this now. Know this. Instead of predicting he will know it. A significant difference, possibly a big one, in the same verse, and this is more due to the translator's additions, not so much the reading of the text. It's more of the, again, those who translated the Brenton Septuagint respectively, and then the Masoretic text. It reads here that a just recompense of thy sins has come to thee from Hashem, versus Eloah or Elohim exacteth of thee less than thine iniquity deserveth. So again, going by the translator's interpretation and additions, it reads in the Septuagint that Job is receiving a fair penalty for what he has done, versus Job has received less than what he deserves. He's getting a light penalty. He's getting off a little easy, which is a great understatement. He is not at all. He doesn't even deserve it, in all honesty. Okay, verse 7. Verse 7, it reads here, there's an omission of the word traces in regards to traces of Hashem versus can you, by searching, find out Elohim? Or have you come to the end of that which the Almighty has made? Versus, can you find out Shaddai unto perfection? So basically it's saying, Job, have you learned up to the end, meaning the fullness of all of Elohim's creation? Versus, have you learned of Elohim to perfection, to completion? Or can you learn of Elohim to 100% completion? So the focus on the creation of Elohim in the Septuagint versus knowing the things pertaining to Elohim and even of Elohim. Verse 8, another translation difference. Heaven is high, and what wilt thou do? Versus, it is as high as heaven, what canst thou do? So this is only referring to heaven, or the things of Elohim being as high as the heaven in the Septuagint, versus the perfection of learning of Elohim that is compared to being as high as the heavens. In my personal opinion, I believe that this is immeasurable. You can't compare it to being as high as heaven. This is infinite. This is truly infinite. Okay, there are deeper things than those in hell versus deeper than hell. So again, referring to these things as things in hell, comparing them to things in hell, I should say there are deeper topics, you could say, deeper concepts than those in hell, versus deeper than hell itself. Again, referring to the things, learning these deep things. Let me try to explain a little bit better. So these topics, these deeper things, what Zophar is saying is that there are deeper concepts and even learning. And how deep are they? They're even deeper than hell itself, than the grave, than the depths, like even Hades, he's saying. So he's comparing the extent of its depth, not only to heaven, but even the opposite direction. Okay, I think that makes more sense now. What dost thou know versus what canst thou know? So what is your present knowledge versus what is your potential to learn? What is your capability of learning, of acquiring knowledge? Verse 10. And if he should overthrow all things, versus if he cut off and shut up or gather together. In other words, if Elohim should destroy or defeat all creation again, technically, since Noah's flood occurred, versus if he, Elohim, should destroy or cease or put together, who will say to him, "What hast thou done?" versus then who can hinder him? So the question being asked is, in the Septuagint, who can question Elohim regarding his motives versus who can prevent Elohim, who can stop him or even delay him? Verse 11, we have a significant difference here. It says, he will not overlook it when he sees wickedness, versus will he not consider it? Okay, so he's not going to give a free pass to wickedness, versus will he not then consider it? Okay, they're rather similar. We're going to move on to verse 12. But man vainly buoys himself up with words, versus for vain man would be wise. So man tries in futility to boost himself up with words, to big up himself, to make his reputation seem better, versus vain men who desire to be wise. And then we read of the donkey in the desert versus a wild donkey's colt. Okay, moving ahead to verse 15 now. Thy countenance shine again, versus lift up thy face without any spots, without any blemish. There's an omission of as pure water, or pure water, however you want to say that. Thus shall thy countenance shine as pure water, and thou shalt divest thyself of uncleanness, versus thou shalt be steadfast. So one is saying you're going to get rid of your uncleanness, versus you shall be steadfast. You will be immovable. You'll be steady, stable. So one is talking about getting rid of your iniquity, perhaps, uncleanness, your sin, could be alluding to that, versus you will just be fixed. You're not going to change. Verse 16, as a wave that passed by, and remember it as waters that pass away. Okay, so the remembering aspect has been added in the Masoretic. There's an omission, and thou shalt not be scared. It's an important point. And verse 17, and thy prayer shall be as the morning star, versus thou shalt shine forth, thou shalt be as the morning, and life shall arise to thee as from the noonday. Verses, and thine age shall be clearer than the noonday. Okay, so these are two separate, we're just analyzing, we're kind of dividing this actually, this verse. So the focus is on the prayer. Your prayer shall be as the morning star, versus you shall shine forth. No mention of a prayer in the Masoretic. You shall be as the morning in general, not the morning star. And life shall arise to thee as from the noonday, versus your age. So not so much life and virility or vibrancy, vitality, not virility. Vitality. It's talking about your age shall be clearer than the noonday. Whatever that means, it seems a little cryptic. You have hope in the Septuagint. You have hope. Versus there is hope. So hope is yours, Job. Versus hope exists. We don't know what that is, or who has it, but it does exist. It's a little more nebulous, more vague. Verse 19, peace shall dawn to thee. Out of anxiety and care. Well, that's verse 18. Peace shall dawn to thee from out of anxiety and care. Yea, thou shalt dig about thee, and thou shalt take thy rest in safety. Okay, so that is the Masoretic version, the second half. So we can see the difference. It's just plain as day. Peace is the focus, and it's going to come to you from out of anxiety and care, out of situations where peace doesn't seem to be present, Versus you're going to dig, Job. You're going to dig around you and you're going to take rest and safety, because maybe he's digging a trench. I'm not sure. For thou shalt be at ease. Versus also thou shalt lie down. That's verse 19. There shall be no one to fight against thee. There shall be no one to fight against thee. Versus no one shall make thee afraid. So you won't have any adversaries, no antagonists in the Septuagint, versus no one will make him afraid. And that seems to be alluding to the previous verse here. You shall not be scared. Maybe that's where it was inserted all the way in verse 19, was moved over there perhaps. And many shall charge and make supplication to thee, versus many shall make suit, which means to make weak. Many shall make weak or afflict unto you. Verse 20, safety versus eyes of the wicked. And they shall not escape. That was added to the Masoretic. Their hope is destruction, and the eyes of the ungodly shall waste away. Verses, and their hope shall be as the giving up of the ghost. So, in the Septuagint, I should say in the Septuagint, their hope is destruction. Versus their hope in the Masoretic is like the giving up of the ghost. It's like dying. A human being dying. That's what it's like. Okay, so that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. I'm doing this traveling right now, so I can't do it in the normal way with the video and all that. So, in any case, thank you very much for your time. Until next time, I bid you all shalom aleichem, assalamu alaikum, eirini mazisu, pax vobiscum, peace be unto you, and maranatha.